أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Welcome to everyone. May you all be included in the peace and blessings of our Lord and Creator. Just excuse me for a minute. I might just speak in Arabic just for a minute or two, just to explain some of the logistical things happening, and then inshallah I'll resume in English. Assalamu alaikum akhwan wa akhwat. Shukran jazilan li hudurkum. وشكرا لصبركم معنا. أدري أنه أغلبية البرنامج بالإنجليزي، بس يعني تعرفون بعد هذا الشيء ضروري، والترجمة تكون موجودة على الواتساب جروب. إذا أنتم داخلين على الواتساب جروب هاي مال Stand for Parental Rights، أكو مجموعة أولى وثانية، تدخلون على المجموعة وتكون الترجمة موجودة يعني مسجلة، تقدرون تسمعون بالعربي. وأكو الأوراق الجاي يعني جاي توصل لكم. أول وحدة هي petition. هاي البيتيشن كلش مهمة لأنه نوصلها لأعضاء البرلمان، وإذا بس 500 توقيع كافي أنه هاي البيتيشن توصل للحكومة، ولازم يجاوبون على هاي البيتيشن وتسجل في الحكومة. فإحنا نريد اليوم يعني تقريبا أكثر من 1000 شخص الحمد لله موجودين. إذا كل واحد يقدر يوقع 4 5 6 حيكون تقريبا 6000 توقيع. فحيكون 12 عضو من البرلمان حيستلمون هاي البيتيشنز، ويعني حتوصل صورة للحكومة انه اكو ناس كثيرين مهتمين بهذا الامر. والفورم الثاني اللي يحتاج تكتبون اسمكم وتفاصيلكم، هذا يعني تعطون وكالة لهاي الجمعية Parental Rights Australia انه تتصل بالمدارس وكالة عنكم وتطلب منهم انه هاي الامور يعني غير مناسبة ما يدرسوها او ما يعرضون الطلاب لهاي الامور. فطبعا تقدرون باي وقت تسحبون هاي الوكالة، فيعني ماكو شيء واحد يخاف منه. اي وقت تدزون ايميل مدرسة انه لا هاي الجمعية ما لهم وكالة. بس الان طبعا احنا حتى نسهل الامور للاباء والامهات، إذا يكون واحد يعني بيقدر يجيد بالإنجليزية ويعني يجيد بالإلكترونيك كوميونيكيشن، يقدر يعني هو يكون نقطة تواصل مع المدارس، طبعا يكون شيء يفيدنا ويسهل لنا الأمور جدا. يعني فإن شاء الله هاي أهم شيء من اليوم إن شاء الله هو هاي النقطتين، إنه تعطون هاي الوكالة للجمعية، وإنه توقعون على هاي البيتيشنز اللي حالي توصل أعضاء البرلمان. شكرا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to all our guests. It's very, very nice to see you all here. Thank you for taking the time to come and show your support for this cause. So I'll be speaking today just about exactly what is happening in public schools and what we can as parents do about it. My information comes from meetings with parents, with students themselves, and with what is available in the curriculums that we see online from NESA, which is the Australian authority which produces the syllabus and curriculum for schools. It's also from being on a number of parental groups where this content and these things have been shared, whether within specific schools or wider parental groups. Just want to, before I start, also acknowledge that we do have some community members, particularly one sister who's been working very, very hard on campaigning in schools and talking to principals and to the Department of Education. Really, she should be here giving the talk, but she preferred that I give this speech. So inshallah, if you have any questions, I'm available, and I can also pass you on to those who've been doing the work and putting in the hard work. Okay, if I could just get the next slide. So. And the next one, sorry. So there's a subject in schools, PDHPE, and we all remember it from when we were in school, physical development, health and physical education. And this runs from kindergarten or year 1 up till year 10. So it's in every age group. So today we're not just talking about high school, we're talking about every age group. So if you've got a child who's 5, who's in kindergarten, this applies. If you've got a child who's 16, who's in year 10, this applies to you as well. Within the PDHPE subject, there is a strand called health, well-being and relationships. If I could get the next slide. So in this subject, children are taught about things to do with sexuality. So we can see that as early as year 1, children are, for example, shown images like this, and if I could get the next slide, of boys and girls in this kind of situation and asked to label the body parts and to know the words. Now, of course, children should know these things, and children may need to know them so that they protect themselves from ever being abused, God forbid. However, there is a way to do this that is appropriate without hypersexualizing that child. This role should be played by parents who understand how to approach this issue with their children, not teachers who may have God knows what background, who don't understand the culture of this child, who don't understand the environment of this child and what this can do to a child if they're exposed to these things too early. Other than this, again, as early as year 1 or 2, the NESA curriculum has pictures like this, where a child is asked to identify different types of families, and we have same-sex parents, both male and female, and children have to agree that yes, this is a type of family. And in fact, in an online module that they do, if they click, for example, the question will be like, a family can have 2 dads. And if they click wrong, false, they will actually lose that mark. So you can see how a child will start to think about these things from a very early age. If I could get the next slide. This is an example from high school now. And I really want your attention for this. I just want you to imagine your child discussing this in their class or bringing this home. And this has been happening it's not new, it's been happening for a few years now. The story in this picture here is that it says that, look, one boy who's named Phil or whatever, he is very close friends with another boy, Joe or whatever, and their friends have now started to say, oh, are you guys gay? And Joe and Phil, actually, they're like, oh, that's okay. Maybe we are gay. So you can see that the scenario is not even that, look, there's a gay student in your class, be accepting of them. It's not even that. It's that trying to instill in that child's mind that, look, if you're close friends with a boy, which we all know at this age, boys and girls are the most important thing to a child at this age is their friends. It's like the beginning and end for them. But what this is trying to put in that child's mind is that if you're really close friends with someone, maybe you're gay with them, right? Maybe you have different kinds of feelings for them. So obviously we don't want our children exposed to this. If I could get the next slide. Role models of same-sex relationships are taught in the textbooks in school. If I could get the next slide. Then we have, besides this issue of same-sex relationships, we have some very, very what can I say? Disturbing things. Look at this, please. Ayla and Ahmed. Okay? Now, for those of you who are Muslims here, these are very obvious Muslim names. For those of you who are Arabs and not Muslims, these are Arabic names. For those of you who are of any faith, you understand what is the intention here. Ayla and Ahmed, 13 and 17, go out to the movies and then decide, I'm very sorry to say this, but I just want to show you that they decide that it's time to have sex. 17 and 13 Muslim children from Muslim families, this is the scenario that's being given. Now, you tell me, you want to include us Muslims in your culture in this way? This is your inclusivity? Next slide, please. And then we have, again, scenarios given to students. Now, year 7 and 8 is the last 2 slides, and this one as well, where, Sam and Alex are a same-sex couple, very young ages, 13, 15, and the scenarios are given to the children. Is this okay? Is this not okay? And it's not like you can answer what you think. You have to answer what's in the textbook. Now, besides if I could just go back 1 slide, please. So far what I've talked to you about is what's in the curriculum. It's in the PDHPE curriculum that schools have. The next thing is that sometimes there'll be external groups coming in. So if we could go to the next slide. And these external groups, like Love Bites, like a few different names that they have, they'll come externally and they will deliver a program to students. High school usually, but can also happen in primary school, or in fact both. And you'll get a note home saying, look, Mr. Mrs. Parent, do you agree to your child attending this incursion, this program, etc.? And it will have a name like relationships or like consent or like mental health, well-being. I please ask you to just say no, okay? Just say no, I don't want my child to attend this, because often it will turn into a discussion about these other issues, about same-sex relationships, gender identity, etc. So be very wary of external groups. Next slide, please. So what can I do about it? The New South Wales Department of Education guidelines say that parents must be notified in advance before any of these subjects are taught in class. So you, as the parent, should be given notice that, look, Mr. Mrs. Parent, in 2 weeks, we are going to start this strand of PDHPE. Your children will learn about child protection, sexual education, etc. They must notify you. And it also says that parents have the right to withdraw their children, and this right must be respected. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to make sure that when that note comes, you initially say, no, I don't want my child to attend this, okay? Now, one thing that I want to say is that sometimes you will have already signed this when you enrolled your child. Because sometimes when you enroll your child, they have a little paragraph, I agree to my child being enrolled in the, being part of the child protection classes. So at enrollment, you've already agreed, so they won't ask you again. So you need to make sure that, please, after this session, on Monday or next term, you write to the principal and you say, look, if I've agreed to anything like child protection or sexual education to my child, I withdraw my agreement. I do not consent to this anymore. Okay? And when you write to the principal and you say, I don't want my child to attend, I don't want my child to be part of this class, they're not going to say yes. Even though that's the policy and you can find it online, they won't say yes. They'll write back to you and say, this is a compulsory subject. Like many of you already wrote letters. We sent, alhamdulillah, thousands of letters went to the Department of Education. And we all got a generic reply back saying, this subject is compulsory. So we don't stop there, okay? We write again. We ask for a meeting with the principal. And we continue to write. We continue to ask for meetings with the principals until we come to a conclusion. We're preparing another letter for you to send. So if the principal is no longer engaging with you and they're saying, no, this is a compulsory subject, your child must attend, we have now a letter ready to go out to the Department of Education. Already, the community members who've been working very hard on this have started sending and preparing these letters. The principals have said, we don't know what to do. We're waiting for the Department of Education to get back to us. So please, today, after you leave, if you've already written your first letter, write your second one. If you have not written any letters, write your first, because we need the schools and the Department of Education to receive tens of thousands of letters in the next few weeks. We need to put as much pressure as we can, because right now, some principals are just not talking to parents. Some principals are just not responding. Some are bullying the parents. Who wrote this letter for you? Do you even speak English? That kind of attitude. So we cannot stop at one letter, or we can't stop just because the principal was rude or bullied me. If I could get the next, we'll be requesting an exemption based on religious grounds. And in the education law in New South Wales, the Secretary of the Department of Education must take this into consideration. They have to reply. Okay, what else can I do? Talk to other parents. You know, this whole group, 1,200 people here, was because parents started talking to each other. Because we had a couple of awareness sessions and everyone sent messages to everyone else. And now look how many parents are here and how many letters have been sent out. Talk to the other parents in your school. Start a WhatsApp group. Talk to the other mums. Talk to the other dads. Because the more parents write to that principal, you'll be surprised. Most parents in your school don't want their children taught these things. But they're waiting for one person to say, hey, let's do something. Talk to the other parents. Get them to join a group. Coordinate with them. Get involved in your school. Be part of the parents committee if there is one in your school. Attend any session that there is, whatever it's about. You know, if there's a father's breakfast, mother's outing, meeting with get to know your principal, turn up and bring up this issue. Talk to the parents, talk to the principal. Just be wary of also of ways that these things are taught to your children indirectly. So in the English subject, teachers are now being encouraged to give students books and movies to study, which include these issues. So when you write to your school, and we've got this in our letter, that we also want them, we don't want these texts taught to our children. We have the right to withdraw our children from this, whatever subject, not just PDHB. Next one, please. The third way is, we'll move on, please. Yeah, the third way is school events. So your school, you know, when it's June or when there's some Pride event, they'll run a Pride carnival. They'll ask your children to wear rainbow or wear purple. They will ask your children to sew flags, rainbow. Again, say, I need to be notified of this. And you can write to your principal at the beginning of every year and say, I want to be notified if there's going to be an event like this. And if enough parents complain, they'll cancel it. And if it goes ahead, don't send your child to school that day. Next one, please. School environments. Just be please aware of the kind of school that you're going to be sending your child to. So before you choose the public school, especially high school, just be aware of the environment at your school, because sometimes a principal, one individual, sets the environment. For example, in our area, we know, I'm from the Auburn area, we know that there's a school, boys and girls across the road, a boys' school, a girls' school. And we know that in one school, the principal is not on board with these things. So the children are not pressured. There's no events. There's nothing. It's all okay. The school across the road, no, it's encouraged. It's facilitated. Children almost get rewarded if they engage in same-sex relationships. Be aware of what kind of principle and environment there is in the school. One school, and I heard this directly from a student. Oh, can I mention the name? Is that okay? I don't know. There's a school in a very multicultural area of Sydney, 70-80% from, Muslim, Christian, and other faith backgrounds. And the school has a group called Fruit Box, where students are encouraged to have been encouraged to make a group for LGBT students and their allies. And these students are, encouraged to have this group, and they have meetings at lunchtime. And now many kids from faith-based families have joined and said, oh yeah, I identify as like this. Ask around about your school before you send your child there. Next, please. And so if your school is like this, it has an environment that facilitates these things, please get the other parents, talk to them. Maybe you can change the culture at the school if enough parents stand up and complain and talk and be loud. And if you can't, you might want to consider removing your child from that school. And finally, this is the whole reason we set up this group, so that not just 10 or 15 parents from one school are talking to each other, but thousands of parents. Now we have, there are 2,300 parents in the group. We now are being kept up to date. And on the website and on the app, there are letters that are ready for you to send out to your principals. There are letters ready to send out to MPs. There are letters that are, there are other resources for you to be able to know what the next step is. Rather than each of us having to do the work is being done by the group. And the group is open to feedback. Many of you have come today. You don't know exactly what's the group about, who's in the group. The group is open to feedback. You give the feedback and the group will take on your feedback, will evolve for what's best for the community, because we're learning with you. Well, we are, this is something that's never been done before. So please, so if I can go back one slide, please. So please, before you leave today, go on the website, download the app, join the WhatsApp group, and please don't leave today without having signed the petitions. Finally, I just want to add a point here, and I'm sure you all know this, if I could go to the next slide, that the most dangerous thing that can happen in all of this is that your child stops talking to you about it and hides things. Because most of us know that our kids come home and tell us, Dad, something really bad happened at school today. Mum, I hated what happened at school today. And they tell us, and they'll walk out themselves. And the sister who's been working very hard on this, when she met with the principal, didn't really agree to anything, except she said that, look, if the child puts their hand up and says, I'm uncomfortable, I'm leaving, I don't want to watch this movie, the teacher cannot force them. So what we want is an open conversation with our children about this. How do I facilitate this? Spend time with your kids. Be their friend. Be there and spend as much time as possible with them. And talk to them about everything. They're interested in soccer, talk to them about soccer. They're interested in, a video game, talk to them about the video game. Because then they'll talk to you about these things honestly. And don't overreact. When they come home and they say something like this happened, or they've made a mistake, don't yell and scream and shout and turn the house and I'm going to take you out of the school and you'll never see your friends again, because that child will stop telling you things. And that's really when we've lost the battle. So please, let's keep an open channel, open communication with our children, because we can deal with everything else, but we won't be able to deal if our children are not telling us what's happening. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you can all continue on this journey with us. فقط أطلب من الإخوان والأخوات عندما تنتهي الكلمات رجاء لا تتركون يعني رجاء لا تتركون أو لا تطلعون قبل ما توقعون البيتيشنز. جدا مهمة البيتيشنز، يعني كل هذا الشغل وكل هذا العمل وجيتكم وتعبناكم، إذا من وقع البيتيشنز ما حيصير نتيجة من هذا الاجتماع يعني مهمة. فرجاء وقعوا البيتيشنز والفورمات وكونوا معنا للأخير إن شاء الله. Thank you very much.